What if the multi-billion-dollar sports team that you're watching on the field is, actually just a loss leader for a luxury apartment complex?
Right, yeah.
Or imagine walking into an opposing team's stadium, heckling their star players, and feeling completely relaxed because the architecture itself is actively manipulating your brain to, lower your cortisol levels.
Which sounds like science fiction, honestly.
It really does. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is to explore the dramatic evolution of the modern sports experience.
And it is a profound evolution, especially in urban planning. It fundamentally changes how we interact with the spaces around us, regardless of whether you consider yourself a sports fan or, just someone who lives in a major metropolitan area.
Exactly. And to guide us through this structural shift, we are looking at a really fascinating piece of source material today. It's a blog post from March of 2026.
Right.
And it's written by someone going by the handle Red Solo Traveler.
Easy name.
Yeah. So this author is a die-hard New York Mets fan, and he recently ventured deep into what he calls enemy territory to watch a game against the Atlanta Braves down at Truist Park. Okay, let's unpack this, because even if you couldn't care less about a baseball game, this source reveals a massive fundamental shift in urban design, in the entertainment industry, and, in how we experience community spaces overall.
Yeah, and my focus here isn't going to be on batting averages or pitching rotations, right?
Thankfully.
Right, yeah. We are looking at this blog post as a window into the underlying economics and, frankly, the psychological engineering of modern venue building. I mean, it serves as a masterclass in how physical spaces are designed to capture our attention and our wallets by totally internalizing entire local economies.
Right. But before we can truly appreciate the machinery behind what Truist Park is today, we kind of have to look at what it replaced.
I do, yeah. Context is everything.
Exactly. So our blogger, Red Solo Traveler, he sets the stage by pointing out that the modern ballpark era didn't actually start in Atlanta. The big architectural pivot happened back in 1992 with Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. The Camden Yards effect. I mean, that was a total rejection of the prevailing trend of the 1970s and 80s.
Right, those giant concrete bowls.
Exactly. Prior to 1992, municipalities were just obsessed with efficiency. So they funded these massive, symmetrical, concrete, multi-purpose stadiums.
Right, designed to host both baseball and football in the exact same footprint.
Yeah, and the logic was purely municipal budget preservation. Why build two stadiums when you can build one?
But the problem was that designing a building to do two completely different things usually means, it does neither of them well.
Right. It's a terrible compromise.
Yeah, the sightlines for baseball were terrible because the seats had to accommodate a rectangular football field.
Precisely. I mean, they were highly functional pieces of civic infrastructure, but they offered this really sterile, compromised viewing experience. So Camden Yards shifted the paradigm back to the classic, idiosyncratic baseball fields of the early 20th century.
Lots of brick and steel.
Brick and steel, yeah.
Right.
And most importantly, it integrated the stadium directly into the existing downtown grid. That architectural philosophy of the standalone retro park, I mean, it just swept across America for the next 2 decades.
It totally did. And that brings us to Atlanta. Because before they moved to Truist Park, the Braves played at Turner Field. And Turner Field was uniquely significant.
Very much so.
It was originally built as the Centennial Olympic Stadium for the 1996 Olympic Games. The eyes of the entire world were on that structure. It was a literal monument to a global event.
What's fascinating here is that historical significance, however, is a notoriously poor insulator against physical degradation.
Oh, definitely. So in 2017, the Braves just packed up and abandoned it.
Walked away.
Yeah, they moved to Truist Park, which was formerly known as SunTrust Park. And Red Solo Traveler notes that it was actually more cost-effective for the team to build a completely brand new stadium from scratch than to maintain the massive, aging Olympic venue.
It's a classic battle of capital expenditure versus operating expenses.
Right. It's think of it this way. It's like inheriting a 30,000 square foot Gilded Age mansion. The history is incredible, right?
Oh, sure.
But the winter heating bill, the outdated plumbing, the constant roof repairs, it's bankrupting you. Eventually, it makes more financial sense to just build a brand new, hyper-efficient smart home right next door.
That's a great analogy. It highlights the ruthless, almost clinical practicality of sports economics. Because, we tend to romanticize stadiums. We imbue them with all this emotional significance.
Definitely. We remember the big games, the moments.
Right. But to the organizations running them, they are physical assets with depreciating values and escalating maintenance costs.
Yeah.
An Olympic stadium is designed to handle the logistical load of a 2-week global track and field event. Attempting to retrofit that massive footprint for an 81-game baseball season, it just results in a staggering utility doom loop.
A utility doom loop, wow.
Yeah, and hitting that limit of depreciation is exactly what forced the Braves to completely abandon their historic Olympic home and rethink what a venue could even be.
Although I do appreciate that the blogger mentions Turner Field didn't just, meet a wrecking ball.
Right, it didn't get demolished.
No, it survives today as Center Park Stadium, serving as the home field for the Georgia State Panthers college football team.
Which is a remarkably sustainable outcome, considering how many former Olympic venues around the world sit completely abandoned and decaying.
Oh, absolutely, just rotting away.
But for a top-tier professional sports franchise, retrofitting an aging, oversized structure, it simply didn't align with their vision for the future of the business. They needed a blank canvas to build a completely different financial engine.
And understanding why they built a new stadium leads directly into the mechanics of how they built it. Because they didn't just pour concrete and roll out grass.
No, not at all.
They built an entire ecosystem. Red Soul Traveler describes how Truist Park is just one single piece of a much larger master plan district called the Battery Atlanta.
Right. And this represents the transition from the Camden Yards retro stadium model to the modern lifestyle district model.
Yeah, the Battery is this highly walkable, open-air area. It is open year-round, and get this, there is no admission fee to walk around the district itself. You don't need a game ticket to be in the neighborhood.
You can just hang out.
Exactly. The blogger details how the upper levels are adorned with residential apartments, while the lower levels are just bustling with restaurants, bars, shops, and even co-working spaces.
It is the literal definition of building a city within a city.
Right. And he also outlines the entertainment and hospitality infrastructure. There is a Coca-Cola Roxy theater for concerts and 3 on-site hotels.
3 of them.
3. An all-loft, a DoubleTree Suites, and a 16-story Omni Hotel that is directly attached to the ballpark. Actually, Red Solo Traveler points out that you can rent rooms with a balcony looking directly out onto the baseball field.
Wow. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the motivations of the ownership groups and the concept of yield management.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Think about the traditional stadium model. A fan comes to the game, maybe they buy a hot dog inside, and then they leave. The team captures revenue for exactly 3 hours, 81 days a year.
Right.
But the surrounding businesses, the local bars, the independent parking lots, the nearby hotels, they're the ones capturing all the pregame and postgame spending.
So the team is generating the foot traffic, but other people are monetizing it.
Exactly. The Battery model is designed to completely internalize that economic loop. Teams want a 365-day revenue stream. They want you spending money at their hotel, attending a concert at their Roxy Theater, eating at their restaurants, and paying rent in their apartments.
That's wild when you think about it.
It is. The baseball game is no longer the sole product. It basically operates as the anchor tenant for a massive real estate portfolio.
The anchor tenant model, that makes perfect sense. The stadium is the anchor department store at the mall, deliberately designed to generate the foot traffic that sustains all the smaller boutiques and restaurants around it.
That's exactly it.
But, our blogger brings up a contrast with his home turf in New York. He talks about Citi Field, where the Mets play.
Okay.
He says Citi Field is a gorgeous ballpark, but for most of its history, it stood out like a sore thumb because it was surrounded by a dilapidated area known for auto body repair shops.
The famous chop shops, right?
Yeah. He notes that redevelopment into a district similar to the Battery has finally started around Citi Field. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. I have to push back a little on the desirability of this Battery model.
Oh, how so?
Well, when you eradicate the gritty, organic, sometimes messy surroundings of a traditional ballpark like the chop shops in Queens, and you replace it with a pristine, hyper-curated corporate co-working and apartment district, doesn't that sanitize the fan experience too much?
I see what you're saying.
Right. Like, do we lose the soul and the distinct culture of a city in exchange for a convenient, frictionless commerce zone?
Well, you might lose architectural distinctiveness and organic neighborhood culture, sure. But from a development standpoint, you gain behavioral predictability.
Behavioral predictability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ownership group isn't selling a cultural anthropology tour, They are selling a premium hospitality product. From their perspective, the organic grit of a surrounding neighborhood represents a massive point of friction.
But friction is what makes a city feel real. If every stadium in the country builds the exact same mixed-use outdoor mall around it, every baseball game is going to feel like a trip to a suburban lifestyle center, whether you're in Atlanta, New York, or Chicago.
True, but you are looking at it through the lens of urban romanticism, while the developers are looking at it through the lens of consumer psychology.
Okay, fair.
Friction stops spending. If a family has to navigate poorly lit streets or walk past an active auto body shop at midnight after a game, their primary goal is simply to get to their car and leave.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just want to get out of there.
Exactly.
Wow.
If instead they walk out of the stadium gates and directly into a brightly lit, patrolled lifestyle center with a gelato stand and a craft beer patio, they relax, they linger, they buy another drink. The frictionless environment is a deliberate psychological choice to extend the dwell time of the consumer.
Extending dwell time.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like a developer's metric.
Absolutely.
Well, let's look at how this master planned utopia of spending actually impacts the human being on the ground. Specifically, how does it impact a fan who is actively rooting against the home team?
Right, the enemy fan.
Yeah. Red Solo Traveler was venturing behind enemy lines. He is a suffering Mets fan walking into a Braves stronghold. And historically, walking into an opposing stadium decked out in your team's gear could be legitimately intimidating.
The tribalism of sports is very real.
It is. Yet he writes that despite being a Mets fan, he felt incredibly welcomed by the Braves community. He was right down there in the thick of it. He secured front row seats by the Braves dugout, and he admits he spent the game yelling phrases at the opposing ball players.
Wow, really leaning into it.
Yeah. The Mets ended up losing this specific game in June 2023, and despite the loss and the heckling, he walked away raving about having a memorable night. He even drops a specific food recommendation for Foxborough's BBQ inside the park.
Always good to get a local food tip.
Totally. So what does this all mean? If an opposing fan can watch their team lose, heckle the home players, and still walk away writing a glowing review of the facility's hospitality, it proves that the district's design is highly effective at managing human emotion.
It does. And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. How much do the physical spaces we inhabit dictate our behavior? For decades, we assumed that sports rivalries were inherently aggressive. But what if the aggression was actually being fostered by the architecture itself?
Wait, really? The physical structures were making the fans hostile.
Well, look at the design of the multi-purpose stadiums of the 1970s and 80s. You were cramped into narrow concrete concourses, corralled through chain link fences, and bottlenecked into dark pedestrian tunnels.
Yeah, it was pretty grim.
The environment felt industrial, enclosed, and high stress. It naturally elevated cortisol levels. You pair that physiological stress with the tribalism of sports, and hostility is the inevitable outcome.
Wow. Now contrast that with the Battery.
Exactly. The open-air, resort-like feel, the wide pedestrian walkways, the ambient lighting, the abundance of upscale dining, it naturally diffuses tension. It feels like you are on vacation. It is incredibly difficult to maintain a hostile, territorial vibe when everyone around you is sipping craft cocktails on a patio and walking back to their luxury hotel room. The architecture itself enforces a civilized, leisurely atmosphere.
You really can't start a riot when you're carrying a $15 artisanal BBQ sandwich and heading toward your co-working space, can you?
Right.
The physical space actively pacifies the tribalism, because tribalism is bad for the broader business model.
Yes. Hostility creates friction. If opposing fans feel threatened, they won't travel, they won't book a room at the Omni Hotel, and they certainly won't spend money in the district's restaurants.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the practical tips our author gives, too, because they further highlight this shift in consumer behavior.
Sure.
He mentions that parking is robust with several garages, but it comes at a cost. He points out that you can utilize Atlanta's MARTA rail system, and there are shuttles to connect you to the park.
Good to know.
And he warns that on game days, the area is incredibly busy, which makes perfect sense if it's a 365-day residential and commercial district that suddenly gets injected with 40,000 baseball fans.
Yeah, it would be packed.
But the piece of advice I found most revealing was his recommendation on tickets. He highly recommends buying standing room only tickets if you can find them.
Really? Which is a complete inversion of how fans used to value stadium access. Historically, the entire goal was to secure the best possible seat to watch the athletic performance.
Right. But he suggests standing room only because In his words, then you're not tied to a seat. That perfectly aligns with the psychology of the lifestyle district.
It really does.
If the entire appeal of the venue is the wandering, the exploring, the different viewpoints, and the various bars and restaurants, being glued to one piece of plastic for 3 hours feels restrictive.
Absolutely. The modern fan wants to curate their own experience, right? Moving from the Foxborough's BBQ stand to a viewing deck to a concourse bar.
Exactly. It treats the baseball game less like a theater performance where you sit quietly in assigned seating, and more like a music festival.
Yeah, where you run between different stages, social zones, and food vendors. It completely redefines the act of spectating from a passive viewing experience to an active, modular social event.
He also mentions taking an official stadium tour. He notes that Truist Park offers them on off days during the season and all winter long.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he says it's particularly worthwhile if you're visiting Atlanta during the winter months. This is another prime example of finding ways to bring people into the building and monetize the space when the team isn't even playing.
Right back to that 365-day utilization strategy.
Yes.
A stadium tour isn't just a historical walkthrough for hardcore fans anymore. It operates as an active promotion of the facility's grandeur. It reinforces the brand of the lifestyle district year-round.
Right.
It keeps the anchor tenant relevant in the consumer's mind, even in the dead of winter.
It's brilliant marketing. We started out looking at a blog post about a guy catching a baseball game on vacation. But the structural evolution we've traced is stunning.
It really is.
We have tracked the stadium from the giant, compromised, multi-purpose concrete bowls of the 1970s to the charming, standalone retro brick parks like Camden Yards in the 1990s, all the way to this current iteration.
Yeah.
It is no longer just about the sport. It is about creating an inescapable, highly profitable, totally immersive urban environment, like Truist Park and the Battery.
Yeah, and as we reflect on this dramatic shift in how these billion-dollar structures are conceived and utilized, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
We have established that the true financial engine of these modern developments is now found in the luxury apartments, the corporate co-working spaces, the attached hotels, and the year-round entertainment districts.
Right.
If that trend continues to accelerate, will the actual sports teams eventually become a mere loss leader, a mere marketing tool used simply to drive up the rent prices of the buildings next door?
Wow. Are we approaching a future where the multi-billion-dollar athletic competition is just an amenity for the apartment complex?
It's entirely possible.
We have definitely given you a lot to think about the next time you walk through the turnstiles, or rather, stroll into the open-air plaza. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.